Hello there, welcome to the table. We are not playing Dungeon Universalis anymore. We are not playing Enemy Action Kharkov. Kharkov is a game that's going to go into my burn pile. Dungeon Universalis, it'll wait until 4 of you actually come to play it with me. Because I think that if there was 5 human beings playing the game, it actually would be pretty decent. But it is too much for me to do solo. Even with the app, even with all the aids, it's too much. I mean, just some of you who go through and just read the comments. Some of you are pointing out rule after rule after rule that you believe I miss. I don't always agree with some of you on some of these rules, but the biggest thing about it is that it just proves that the game is too much. But anyways, that's not why we're here. We're here for Stars of Akarios, which I really love this game. I've played it all the way until Act 2 with my son, and he ended up leaving for college. So I am sad and I'm crying because I never got to finish this game. So we're going to try to play this solo. We're going to control 4 characters because that's the only way to play. You got to control all 4. Honestly, this game is most enjoyable for players. I don't know how some of you actually play with less. And if you do, I think you're missing out. Because I think there's a lot of interaction with this game. And I feel the same way about Gloomhaven. This game stole a lot of concepts from Gloomhaven. And the word steal is a loose term. It just, they borrowed a lot of concepts from Gloomhaven. Let's put it that way. So if you've played Gloomhaven before, if you've watched my Gloomhaven series, then this game should come to you naturally. There's like 90% of it, the space combat at least, is Gloomhaven. Now it throws in a space exploration and planet exploration. Planet exploration is a lot like Seventh Continent, which I find to be pretty boring, to be honest. But my son loved it, so we had different opinions on that. If you're new to the series, stay here for setup. If you want to see the actual playthrough, go to video 2. That's the way I always do my videos, so just want to make sure for anybody who's new. Okay, so what is Stars of Akarios? Well, I just mentioned a couple games, Gloomhaven, Seventh Continent. If those games aren't familiar with you, don't run away. But, if they are familiar with you, then a lot of this will make sense. It's got 3 acts. It's a giant epic saga campaign. It is definitely not meant to be played in one single setting. And there's no way you can play this in one single setting. I did have some friends over and we played like 2 or 3 missions, which are like the part of the prologue. So there's a prologue and there's 3 acts. So I did part of the prologue with them. And it was mostly to gauge on whether or not they were willing to do this series with me. And they were not. Some of them flat out hated this game. The other ones were just mediocrely okay. So I think this is going to be, depending on your tastes, what you like or don't like. I found it to be fascinating. I do love this game. It is cumbersome to play, but not from a rules perspective. I thought that, when my son and I were playing, that mission after mission after mission, like they started to get a little samey. And that is my one concern, is that it didn't feel like there was too much differences going on to keep it interesting. But with that being said, really enjoyed it. So in terms of setting up the game, you're going to have, I happen to have a player mat, which just is a copy of the game board. And then you're going to have your various tokens. You're going to want to set these boards along with yellow and blue cubes. And then you're going to need one of these for each player. So since we're controlling 4, I have 1, 2, 3, and then way over here to my left, 4. And then this area in front of me is open for me to roll dice or do whatever. I don't need all these trays, so let me find a place to put that. Done. This here is your Sparrow, which is like your capital ship, or if I can use wargaming terms, this is your carrier. And within the Sparrow, you're going to have some trauma cards, which we've never used once. These are things that you draw when you gain enough stress, and we'll talk about that when we start playing. We've never used them once. My son and I, we just played well enough that we never allowed our stress to get that bad. This is just a die for special times when you need it. And then the Sparrow board itself, you keep track of how much supply the Sparrow has here. You start the game with 4. And then this is how many hull points the Sparrow has. And I believe we're going to start with, I don't remember, but I think it's 10. When we get into the mission, we'll know. This changes. And then if there's ever a timer, this is your timer to keep track of which round it is during battle. The Sparrow itself does exist as a ship, and you can see that right there. And we are, from a space exploration perspective, we are in this zone here. And you can see we are in the Draconian system, and we are on this location. And we're going to be doing scenario number 1. And that's where we start the game. And then if we were to ever explore, there's only one direction to go, and that's this way. And then we would grab card 2.1 here and reveal it, and then that will reveal a new area, and then there might be new missions, etc. So that's the basic idea. We're going to do the prologue first. The prologue introduces, it's basically a training wheels thing, and it's going to introduce all the game concepts really slowly, almost too slowly. This space exploration thing won't happen until almost near the end of the prologue. Okay, so we're going to have a lot of, various cards that are in here. You don't need them all out. Just leave them there. In fact, I even have some that are still in the wrapper. You can see, and this is probably because those are Act 3 cards. We never made it to Act 3. There's a whole bunch of modifier cards, which I have listed over here. I'm going to probably have to move those closer to me at some point. But we're going to go ahead and set the Sparrow here. Every player is going to get what's called a modifier. And the modifier deck is going to have a number on the top corner. So this is deck number 2. There's a 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so this is what you're going to be using during battles. I highly recommend that you sleeve them. I think I've seen some people say that they don't sleeve their cards, and I think they're nuts. You have to shuffle these cards over and over and over again, and they're going to scuff. There's going to be like all kinds of damage to the cards. I don't have any of the other cards sleeved, but these ones for sure. Now there's also one more modifier deck, a 5th one, E for enemy. And I did find it funny because somebody thought it was 3. And I could sort of see that in an ex-dislic kind of way. But yes, it's E for enemy. And where is the real 3? Let me see if I can find it. Here we go. That being the real 3. So I can see it now. I really can, because look at that. That's a 3 and this is an E. That really does look eerily similar, except in this case it's upside down. So if you make it right side up, now you can see it more properly. But yeah, that cracks me up. Okay, so we're going to be jumping into mission 1, and we'll set that up very shortly. But we have to first select our pilot, which is one of these 4, and our ship, which is one of these 5. And I was not a Kickstarter backer. I bought this game directly from the whatever company makes this. But I was like a late pledge type of purchase. So I ended up getting this extra ship, which I think is a Kickstarter type of ship. I don't know if everybody's copy has it. The extra ship, I don't even know which one is the extra ship. I think it's the Invictus. I don't know which one the extra ship is. But we do have 5 ships. Now, I will tell you that the ships and pilots sort of matter. I know, I think, if you're really worried, don't worry about it. Because like when you play the prologue, at the end of the prologue, it allows you to mix and match your ships and pilots any way you want. So if you realize, hey, this pilot would go best with that ship, when you go to start Act 1, you have that opportunity, and specifically in the rules, to go and switch things up, because you're now familiar and comfortable with all the ships and pilots that you can, make that decision. I'm really torn. Like, for example, Merkava is definitely going to be picked. The Karis, whatever one this is most assuredly going to be picked. This research and scout combo is fantastic. I can't express enough how awesome research and scout is. I can't express enough how much command and assault works. So those two, for sure. Now, like, what are these different command descriptors? Well, command is you're going to be a ship that's going to do things that help others around you. So you're going to be more of a support. Assault means you're going to be doing damage. Okay. Research means you're going to be able to do high-tech stuff, which in this case is really valuable. And then scout, of course, you're going to have a lot of good movement type of things, or the ability to get out there and be a little bit ahead of everybody else, so closer to the enemy. The Invictus here is a scout and a heavy. Heavy being it's more of like your tanky. Like you could just take more hits. And then they also show that like this is your hull strength, and then this is your shield strength. So the little amoeba looking thing is your hull, and there's 4 and 4. So Invictus is a very well-rounded ship. So is this Karis, 4 and 4. The Command Merkava is 6 and 2, so a whole bunch of hull points, but not very much shields, and so forth. Now the Argonaut here is 8 and 1, hull versus shield, and it's assault and heavy. Assault is, like we said, a lot of weapony, attacky stuff, and then heavy. So this is your true tank, right? Argonaut. And then down here, it's command and research, and this is the Gnosis, the Kenosis, however you want to pronounce that. Usually KN is like knife, so I would say the Gnosis. But you could also say the Gnosis, because, it's, I don't know. So getting back to what I was saying, Merkava are both must-haves. Everything else, I'm a little less convinced on what to have. Now, my son and I chose not to take the Invictus. So the Invictus was not in our campaign, and we didn't miss it one bit. But when I played with my friends, we chose the Invictus and left out the Gnosis, and I thought the Invictus was neat, but I don't know if it's enough to overcome the other ones. And then this Argonaut here, I don't know how great this one is either. There's just so much to say and analyze. And of course, with the amount of play that I've done in this game so far, I can't, quite... Let me just say, it all works. And you really shouldn't over-analysis paralysis this, which is what I'm currently doing. It all works. I just, I'm a person, I like to play as many characters as possible. Anytime I play a game, I want to play all 5 ships, but you really can't. I mean, technically you can, because the 5th ship is there and you can always swap them, but it's not a smart move. You want to upgrade just one ship. So we're going to talk about this a little bit more detail. So each ship has cards, and then these are skills that unlock. And at the beginning of the game, none of them are unlocked, but not very far into the prologue, you're going to get the first level skill. It'll take a while to get your second and third, but basically we're going to turn these cards over, and then skill level 1 will be unlocked, and then you'll be able to see like, okay, this is what this ship does. So this ship, these symbols are something you're going to have to learn. This means it's going to slow enemy ships, and this means that it'll radar jam an enemy ship. So you can slow or radar jam somebody. This is a really good ability. There's invulnerability. So basically you can just decide you're going to ignore damage during the next action phase. So you could basically just say, you know, screw you, kids. And then there's a healing beam here where it's going to project in a pattern in front of the ship an ability to heal and repair shields. So repair hull and shields for an infinite number of ships that are in that zone. So this NASA ship is not a bad ship at all. The polarized armor for the Argonaut is you could reduce damage by 1. And then here you could see we can do a hull explosion where we take 1 hull damage, but we're going to do 5 damage to an infinite number of targets that are 1 space away. So I'm getting into some of the notations here, and we'll do this more when we play. And then it requires a stress die. This, by the way, 5 damage is a lot of damage. And then reactive ignore, which is after being attacked, you can ignore all combat effects of the attack. So you can just, basically it's a big nope, I'm not going to take that damage anymore. So the Argonaut's not bad. And then the Invictus here has some special move. So you're going to be able to do like a bonus move, which this is really nice because now you don't have to spend a die to do movement. So that's why I like this one. And then it has a stun jump, which I also really like. And it has a, actually this one here I wasn't as thrilled about, but basically you draw 3 cards instead of 2 when you have advantage. And I know we haven't talked about that much. So the Invictus, I think, is a solid option for a ship. So it's a scout and heavy instead of an assault and heavy. And a part of me feels like you have to have at least 1 assault. That's a command plus assault. The problem with that is, yeah, the commands are so good as well. So this one, of course, being a command and research, which... yeah, I'm going around in circles. I really am. I'm going around in circles, uncertain of what to pick or do. So that's where it gets very, very difficult. Now, the pilots themselves. There are 4 pilots to start the game. By the way, there's other ships in the game. They're over here. You can see the little pile. And there's also other pilots in the game, but those get unlocked later. Unlike Gloomhaven, there's no like secret unlocks. I mean, you can see the stats and everything of these pilots you will get later. Enver here, these skills that you see here are for whenever they're doing planet exploration. And so when you land on a planet and you're doing the exploration, these skills go into effect. When you're doing space battles, none of those skills go into effect at all. So if you're worried about like what's down here, don't. And there's only 4 pilots, so if you're playing a 4-character game, you really don't get a say in the matter. I would say that the pilot that stinks the most in my mind is Gerdon, this one. But it's not because like he actually has the highest health. Like he's pretty good on the planet, but in terms of like space battle stuff, I don't like his skills at all. So what are their skills? They start the game with level 1. They will not have 2 or 3 or 4, right? These would be all locked, and you'd have to unlock them later in the game. The Gerdon here, if your attack deals 0 damage, then you lose 1 stress. That's what that means. Losing a stress is always a good thing, but it's a crappy skill. I don't like it. This one is you get +1 damage when you have advantage. This is Violet Ray. Then we have Starla, who has self-sacrifice. So basically she takes 1 damage to give 2 pieces of candy to someone around her, and that lets them do double damage. And then Stimpax, basically you're going to give yourself advantage in an attack. And it doesn't matter if you're at a spot where you don't have advantage. And this goes with, I believe, Enver here. So these are some pretty good options. The pilots are all great. Like I said, Garrison is the one I don't like, or probably I like the least. So if you're playing less than 4 players, I sort of recommend you don't pick him. Although he does have the most health, and like I said, he's best for planet exploration. But don't care for him as a pilot in space. However, you do unlock more pilots later in the game, and it does give you some moral dilemmas, because you're going to get... These pilots are going to level up, and you're going to get a little bit of attachment to them. And then when you get these other pilots later in the game, you have to make a choice, because you can't put them all out on the field. You have to pick one or the other. And when they finish a mission successfully and you give out the rewards, only the pilot who actually participated in the mission gets the rewards. So you have to choose to start over with a new pilot, or you're going to have to revert, stick to your loyalty to one of these original 4. I really struggle with this one. The game also, you spend so much time leveling up these pilots, they get really powerful. And then to go back to one of the new ones, I almost don't even know if it's worth it. It's a little bit of a balance issue, I think, with the game, and I think some people have legitimately griped about it, and I tend to agree, although I did switch one of these pilots. It wasn't the Garrison, because my son played Garrison and Enver. I was Starla and Violet Ray, and it was actually Violet Ray that I swapped out. I really like Violet Ray, but I just liked Dusty more. And yeah, I'm spoiling it for you. I unlocked Dusty. But with that being said, I think we got what we need to be able to do this. And my dog may start barking, so forgive me. Okay, sorry about that. My dog started to bark, and I paused, and I've been gone for like a half hour with the video recording paused here. So I don't remember what my thoughts were, but I'm sure I was just rambling anyways. So let's get going with the setup here. You have to pick a pilot. You have to pick a ship. So I am choosing not to pick the Invictus ship. So we're going to set this one aside. And that means I need to take the ship off. And technically the ship is with us. But you would have to choose to take this ship out for a stroll instead of some other one. So I'm going to go ahead and just set these off to the side. And we're going to go with, so Violet Ray perfectly combos, in my opinion, with the Akarios. So we're going to do these two for one. And then also, I have the miniatures expansion. Otherwise, you have to use standees. I would say I highly recommend them. However, sometimes it doesn't fit. Like, that was actually very perfect, like very solid. But like this ship here has been a pain in the butt the whole time. But anyways, so that's the ship, and this is the Gnosis. And the reason I'm picking it is because the research is valuable. You want ships with research. At least I do. Like my playstyle, the research is really nice. The command, not so much, but the research is very good. And that's why I chose this one over the Invictus, because the Invictus was a scout and heavy. Scouting is also very good, but I wanted the research. So for this particular one, I am going to choose Enver. So we're going to go ahead and do that. I think I'm going to choose Enver. Let me think about this. Yeah, and then the Argonaut is going to be Garrison. And then the Starla will be on the Merkava. And then the self-sacrifice, yep, that goes with Starla. All right, so I know this is all sloppy, but we'll get this. I'll show you how to put this in quick enough. These cards over here are because I'm already preparing for the first mission. Not quite ready to do the first mission yet. So when you go through the setup, there are various things you have to do. There's what they call the... So you have the campaign setup. So that is getting the Sparrow ready, which the only important thing you got remember is you start with 4 supply, which is the middle track, what you see there. So, well, it says place the black cube into slot 5 of the Sparrow supply track. So actually, I was wrong. It's 5 supply, not 4. My apologies. So then we have to get a sheet, which I'll get that out in a second. And then we set up the space exploration card, which you can see over there. We talked about that. Then we're going to do the player setup, and the hardest part is making your decision on which ship to do and which pilot combo. And then we'll get those going. And so you can see here's our 4 pilots. And the thing I'm looking for, the only reason I still have this open, is we start with some weapons and engines, and I just need to see which ones right here. So we choose 1 weapon upgrade and 1 engine upgrade from cards 1 through 4 and place the cards on the card player board. There are multiple copies, which is true. So we can have more than 1 for each. And that's what I needed to know. I need to know 1 through 4 of weapon and engine, and then we're going to be good to go. So I'm going to go ahead and close the rule book. There's not much else to do here. The rulebook is decent. It could be better. There are many errors in this game. And first of all, in the defense of the designer, this game has a ton. Like, the campaign book is huge. The errors are mostly with the scenario setups and campaign book. It's less so with the rules. Some of the rules, though, are just missing. Like, he doesn't explain what to do in this scenario. And so then you have to go to Board Game Geek, or I've been using a Facebook forum. And the designer drives me nuts because he uses a Q&A session to do all of his rules answering. He does not actually directly answer questions on Board Game Geek, or if he has answered your question, then consider yourself lucky. He has like this minion guy who I don't even think works for him, who collates all the questions and holds the Q&A session like some kind of podcast kind of thing. And I can't tell you enough how much it drives me nuts. I don't want to listen to a podcast to get my 1 rules question answered. So I'm hearing like 30 questions that are actually questions that the rulebook does answer, but the person is too lazy or dumb to understand it. And that's saying a lot for me, because I get rules wrong when the rulebook says it. And I'm even making fun of these people. But it drives me nuts. I had to watch an hour-long podcast to get this 1 question I had answered because it was critical. Like, I didn't know what really was I supposed to do. And there's also one other question that is still not answered, but I think we're going to go ahead and give it a college go. And I will explain to you anytime I've made a house rule based on, nebulous rules, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we'll go into that whenever the playthrough starts. But and I know some of you will be like, that's not what it says. And in some cases, I'm going to tell you to blow it. Because the rules, to me, have a fluidity to them. And there's times when I've seen the designer answer a question and I don't think he knew what he was saying. And then people went off down to this rabbit hole. And then I've literally seen the designer on this podcast reverse his decision and contradict himself because he realized what people were interpreting that rule answer to be. And then he realized, no, that's not what I wanted. And so at some point, I think you just ultimately just have to do what's right and what makes sense. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. Let's get going here. So for our player board, we have to get a purple cube, a blue cube, and a green cube. This is the stress, the shields, and the hull value. So for example, for this one, we're going to make this one, the pilot is going to be Violet Ray. And so there's a spot for your pilot right there. And then you just take your pilot token, this one, and it's your choice. You could put, his picture here like so. I don't, because I always want to see the stats. So I flip it over to look like this. So I have Violet Ray and his stats, and I apologize, the camera's being shaky. I'm trying to find a good way to hold it here. The pilot skills. So they're going to say Violet Ray, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4. The 1 skill is unlocked at the start of the game, and there is a spot for it right here. So I put all the skills there, and then just the one that's on top is, of course, the one that's active. And then the ship abilities, none of them are active at the start of the game. They will be very, very soon, but it's part of the training wheels tutorial. So we're gonna go ahead and put that there. Now you may notice that I have black cubes in all of these spots. You can proactively do that if you'd like. What these black cubes are for is, like, as you start using these skills, this one here is a perfect example. This proximity exploit, I have 3 supply, meaning I can use it 3 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're gonna put it on the 3 spot. So at the start of a mission, when I use this skill, I'm gonna then discharge it down to 2, and then eventually I'm gonna run out of charges. There are ways you can resupply charges. We'll get into that in a bit. But for now, just understand that there's 3. And then the one thing that confuses everybody who is new to the game, and especially if you go into the rules forum, you see there's 4 cubes here. So some people think that this means that there's 4 supply. That's not the case. Actions in this game use dice. So you're going to put a dice here or a die here, because there's different symbols. So like this symbol die goes into these 4 spots. This symbol die goes into these 2, stuff like that. What this here is saying is you don't put a die here to activate this. You just spend a cube. That's what these 4 cubes mean, that you would just spend a cube to activate that skill. So we'll get into that when we're actually playing. I'll explain it again, I'm sure. But I just, as an introduction, just get that into your mind, that this does not mean that there's 4 supply. That's the supply over there. Okay. All right, now that I beat that dead horse to death, the Charis, of course, is the ship. And it looks like this. And the one thing that drove my son and I nuts is that this is the front of the ship, not this. It does not look like that. Looks like the butt of the ship, but the front of the ship is the ring. This is the back. So, I mean, now that you look at it and somebody tells you this, then it's like, okay, I see it, because you can see like the little exhaust here. But to be quite honest, I see a giant exhaust here. So anyways, drove us nuts. But this ship has 4 hull and 4 shields. And for the most part, I do like to put it in like so. However, they designed this board really wonky. You can't put your ship here. So if you're doing like a mission where you're not doing a space battle, you actually can flip it over like this, and then now your ship fits perfectly there. And then you would take this because you're landing on a planet. So you use this when you're on planets. You use this when you're in space battles. You never use both at the same time. So arguably speaking, you should be able to flip your ship over during planet landings, because you don't need to see the stats of your ship. And then once you need to see the stats of your ship, the ship's actually going to be on the board. So therefore you don't need your ship here anymore. And then you can flip this over, and then boom, you have your skills. Okay, so we're going to do this again and again. So now we got Enver here, and we're going to go ahead and put him over here. And then he's got the stim packs, which we are going to put here. And I'm going to scoot this up a little bit so I can have better ability to put the camera. Let's grab a couple cubes. This one has a supply of just 2. So we're going to do that. And then we're going to put some cubes on all 4 of these for now. And Enver, of course, is there. And his ship there. His ship abilities are not available yet. So we're going to put those face down. And then, yeah. So we're just going to put his ship out here, and then the Gnosis will go there. Okay. And then we got to rinse and repeat here. And I am noticing that I don't have a place to put the camera down real easy, so I can just use both hands here. So let's get this out of the way real quick. For pilot abilities, I'm jamming it a little bit off camera here. And this is Jaredin. And of course the ship abilities are not active yet. So we'll put that in. And then this is the Argonaut. And then the Argonaut is, nope, that's not the Argonaut. The Argonaut is that ship. So that would be this guy right here. Okay, so one thing I do want to show, I have, and inside the tray, I have those little things. So I'm going to grab 1, 2, 3, and 4. Yeah. Okay. All right, so the way this works, you see that's a picture of Giardin. And so you put that on the ship, so you know that that's the ship that he's piloting. And so you get that in that little cubby hole there. And this ship here is Ender's ship. So go ahead and put that in, like so. So putting that's the Knossos. And then the Akarios is piloted by Violet Ray, this lizard-looking dude. And so we got him. And then last but not least is Starla. And getting her stuff in. I'm doing all this a little bit off camera here, just to speed this up. I do need some black cubes. So Starla's skill has a supply of 2, but the resolve here has no supply. So that resolve ability is always active. There's no cubes necessary for that one. And so, and then this is Starla's ship here, and we'll get this on. So now we know that's her ship. And of course, none of the ship abilities are active yet. And we put the Merkaba on her player board. And then I'm gonna go ahead and put the ship there. And I apologize, I know you're just staring at the wood part of my desk. But anyways, that's where she's set up. This is Giardin, Violet Ray, and then Enver over here. Now, we're not fully done yet. What it said was we had weapon 1 through 4 and engine 1 through 4. Each pilot gets to start the game with one of them. So what you have to do is you have to take the weapon deck and just go 1, 2, 3, 4. And then the engine deck, you got to do the same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we reveal them. So let's start with the engines. So engine 1 is burn and flip. Then engine 2 is flank. Engine 3 is barrel roll. And then engine 4 is bank. And I'm missing a burn and flip. I know there's another burn and flip out here. It was on Violet Ray from the last time we played. Okay, so these ships are going to do all kinds of cool stuff in the game. They will be facing any of these hex sides, right? So this is a ship. This is the front of the ship here. So this is a situation where Violet Ray is facing that direction. Then Violet Ray can rotate, and now it's facing that way. So this is movement options. So this one here, if Violet Ray were to play a die here, he would get to move, starting from this position, he would move 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces ahead, but then his orientation flips. Like he's now, if he was facing up, he's now facing down. The opposite. So he basically rotates 180 degrees. So then flank is a similar concept. He's going to rotate 180 degrees, but this time he's going to, it's also going to do a banking, left or a bank right, your choice. Barrel roll is, okay, I'm facing a direction, I'm just going to roll left or I'm going to roll right. And then bank is similar, except you're going to go 2 spaces to the right or 2 spaces to the left. So what's the advantage? One versus another versus another. There isn't one. It's your strategy. It's your tactics. There's a lot of good to all of these. So everybody gets to pick one. And it is possible that you're going to have more than one player that wants the same one, which is great, but as long as you don't have 3 players needing the same one, right? Because you have 2 copies of each. So from that perspective, it's good. I will tell you that the scout ship here is going to take flank. Flank is his favorite item. It's a pretty darn good one for a scout ship, so that's what he's going to do. He's going to take flank, and what you do is you put it in one of the 2 engine upgrade spots. Now, it means that you don't have an engine upgrade over here yet. And then you can see here that there's 3 supply, so you take this black cube and you put it on 3. And so, once again, when you use this type of maneuver, you would burn supply points, right, to be able to do it. Okay, actually, I'm going to change my mind. I'm actually going to give him burn and flip instead. So we're going to put flank back. Burn and flip. Okay, next. Now, you might be asking, why am I doing burn and flip? Or either of these. The scout ship has this ability to go stealthy. And so when they go stealthy, they no ship can target them. And so it's really cool. You can just go into enemy lines and then stealth up, and then they can't do anything to you. Then when you come out of stealth, you get advantage on all of your attacks. So if you can attack more than one enemy, you get advantage against all of them. And I know we haven't talked about what advantage means yet, but it's really powerful. And so you want the ability to like get behind enemy lines and then flip around so you can hit them. Now the flank is just as good. I mean, you saw me. I'm debating on which one's better. But I went with burn and flip, and it's largely because of this ship ability from the Akarios. They have this beam cannon. It's a level 2 ability, which we're not going to start the game with. It's going to be a while before we unlock this. But see how it's just this big straight shot? The burn and flip is perfect for it, because if I'm already lined up with a ship, I can just go around, flip around, and then I can shoot them right up the wazoo. So that's where understanding what your ship does in the future does help you. But like I said, you can play this all the way until Act 1 starts and then mix and match. Okay, so Karis is done, or Violet Ray. So next we're going to move to Starla. Starla is a command ship. The command ship tends to fall behind the other ships because it's doing things like healing, repairing, giving out candy. We'll talk about what giving out candy means in a second, or when we start playing. So Starla needs to be mindful of those things. But the other thing about Starla is that she will sometimes use skills like targeted bolt or something like that, where it requires, or there's also this long shot where you're trying to shoot in one direction and you have to aim yourself perfectly. So a barrel roll can be really helpful because sometimes in this game you're pointing the right direction, but you're in the wrong hex. And so just being able to move one hex over lines up your shot. I like it. I'm not sure how much I like it. When my son Josh and I played, we really fell in love with burn and flip and flank. And it's largely because these ones let you move a lot of spaces and it really shakes up the battlefield, whereas this doesn't shake up anything. But you have spots for 2 engine upgrades, not just 1. So it would be nice to maybe get both of these at some point. But for now, I'm going to take flank for Starla. So Starla is the one that has the command ship and the assault ship. So that will allow her to get behind people and shoot them up the wazoo. Okay, Jarden is the assault and heavy ship. So he's going to go in heavy and hot and want to really, smoke their bacon. So we're going to do burn and flip for him. And then Enver is going to be... hold on. Enver, I was contemplating giving this back to Jordan. But Enver is going to be... I'm sort of declaring this now. He's going to be our stun specialist, which I'm sure some of you using your imaginations are going to know what that means. But he does need to get close to the enemy so he can stun them. And I think flank is a really cool way to take a lot of movement and get closer to various people. So we're going to go ahead and give him that. And so he has a charge of 3. The burn and flip is 3. So I'm just putting the gray cubes out for everybody on supply 3. Okay, so that's it. So we chose none of the 3s and none of the 4s. So these just go back into the deck supply. And then we're also going to choose the weapon. So again, there's going to be 2 copies of everything. There is Proton Blast, Long Shot, Burst Fire, and EMP Blast. Okay, now this is where it gets interesting. So the Proton Blast, looking at these things by the way, this of course is the number of supply you get. This is the effects that you can cause to the enemy. This down here is the number of dice it costs to do the action. This 10 is how much it sells for. So you would have to spend 10 bucks to acquire this, but in the beginning of the game you get it for free. And the sell value is 5, so it's always half. So you will be able to sell this if you'd like later. And then what it's saying here is that you can do 2 damage to 2 targets. That's what the little 2 in the circle is. The circle means number of targets. The triangle is the amount of damage. And then there's a square, which is the range. And if you look at this one, that's a range of 3. So that's in a square. 2 targets, which is the circle, and 1 damage, which is in the triangle. Okay? All right. So with that said, this Proton Blast hits multiple targets. You see here, it hits 2 targets. So I'm going to give this to the Scout. The Scout is going to need to hit multiple targets, and there's nothing more awesome than this as far as hitting multiple targets at the beginning of the game. This is like the best you can do. So Violet Ray here is going to get a weapon, and then we have to put that at 3 supply as well. Okay? All right, so then we move on to, I'm going to do Enver next. And Enver is the command and research ship, the Gnosis. And remember I told you he was going to be our stun specialist. This EMP Blast doesn't have a pattern like the other one. It goes in a radius, 3 points in all directions. And here you can see that it will stun anybody that it hits. So we're going to give EMP Blast to Enver, and he's going to become our little stun specialist. And so that has a charge of 3. So I'm going to put him on 3 supply. Next we move to Starla, our command ship. And this is where it gets interesting. We can do burst fire. Well, we can do any of them really. But I'm going to give her the long shot, which is an armor piercing long shot that goes in a straight direction. And this is why I was debating giving her the barrel roll, because I can't tell you how many times you want to use this shot, but you're in the wrong hex. And if you just barrel rolled 1 space over, then you can perfectly hit, targets. Now, why would I do long shot? It's a 3 damage attack. And if you look at all of these, this is the highest damage attack amongst them all. This burst fire is also 3 damage, and it's even against 2 targets. However, they have to be really close. Whereas this one, you can shoot far away, and you pierce their shields. I will tell you that piercing shields is pretty sucky in this game. In Gloomhaven, it's an awesome skill. It's probably one of the best, but here it's not. So, but it's still a good high damage type of attack. So I'm going to go ahead and give her a long shot. I don't like long shot, by the way. It's too restrictive. I just don't know if burst fire is going to be any better. And actually, one of the things I was contemplating is just giving her proton blast. because this one shoots 4 spaces ahead, right? Long shot, if you look at it, 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces ahead. They both shoot 4 spaces ahead, except the proton blast will hit more area. It also hits more targets, but it does 1 less damage. Now, for the same number of dice, I can do 3 damage with long shot. So that's why we're going to give her long shot. I'm not a big fan of it because I feel like it's sometimes you'll play a whole mission and never get to use it once. And then what I like to do is give burst fire to the 4th pilot, so they all have like variability in what they can do. Like if you give all your pilots the same weapons, then you're going to be really strong on some missions, but you're going to be really weak if you're up against enemies who are carrying immunities against those weapons. So burst fire does have some nice abilities to them, but you got to get up close and personal with burst fire. So, but we're going to give this to Giardian, and it only has 2 supply, so that's something to keep in mind. So these now get put away, and I do recommend that you keep the order intact when you're keeping these cards. It does save you time later. So here we go. We have a Violet Ray piloting the Akarios, has Burn and Flip and Proton Blast. And starting skill is going to do +1 damage when has advantage. Giardian is also with Burn and Flip and is going to have Burst Fire. And if he ever does 0 damage, he gets to remove 1 stress. Starla is going to pilot the Merkava, while Giardian is piloting the Argonaut. Starla is going to pilot the Merkava, Command and Assault, with the Flank ability and Long Shot, and then has Self-Sacrifice, which that's the skill that gives out candy. Enver is going to be piloting the Gnosis. It's going to have Flank and EMP Blast. And starting skill can use Stimpaks to give advantage on attacks. Now, the EMP Blast is something that I was considering giving to Giardian instead. Like just having Giardian do that Gnosis ship instead. Because this Stimpak here is really nice for those attacks that do a lot of damage. The EMP Blast only does 1 damage. To get advantage on something that does 3 damage is huge, because advantage, you're going to draw these combat cards, and like the first one here, for example, is giving you a -1 to your attack. This one gives you a +2. Advantage lets you draw 2 of them and pick the better of the 2. So this is huge if you can put this on a ship that does a lot of damage. I just don't know. Like right now, I chose to give the EMP Blast to Enver, and Enver's the one person who can give himself advantage at any time. So there's a temptation of, well, we should give him the one that does 3 damage. And I'll think about it. I don't want to make this video any longer than it already is. I might do that. I might switch Enver and Giardian and make Giardian the one that does all the stunning and stuff like that. I haven't fully embraced that, but it might work. Because right now, Giardian has that stupid resolve skill, so that doesn't help him do extra damage at all. You know what? I'm actually going to make the call. We're going to do it right now, because remember, at the end of Act 1, I can always switch it back. So Giardian is going to move over to the Gnosis ship, and he's going to be the one with the EMP Blast. I'm leaving the ships exactly the way they are. So the EMP Blast is staying with the Gnosis ship. But we're going to move Enver and his ability to get advantage over to the Assault and Heavy ship, the Argonaut. Because the Assault ships are all about damage, that's for sure. And this one's a Command and Research ship. So we're going to have Giardian on the Command and Research ship. And Enver is going to be on the Argonaut. Okay. All right, so what else is left? Well, we got to read the story and start mission 1. I'm actually going to do that as part of the playthrough. So we will end this video here. And thanks for watching. As always, stay awesome. There's really not much else to do for the setup. So we're ready to rock and roll. I know I made it seem like this is long. It really isn't once you get organized. And of course, if you're not explaining things, it can be really quick. So anyways, thanks for watching. Stay awesome.